Hey guys, so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you my suspension setup on the E Revo 2.0. Surprisingly, a lot of people have asked me about my suspension setup, and I'm not really doing anything special. As a matter of fact, I think I'm doing something wrong, but it seems to work really well across my yard and across my terrain. And so today, I'm going to tell you exactly how I have it set up, and I'm also going to demo it for you, and I'm going to explain to you why I have it set up the way that I do. As you can see, I have got a lot of springs and extra shocks because I have tried a lot of different setups. I actually have different fluids in those, and so it's actually a little bit thicker. And on the E Revo that I run, you can see it's got the gold springs on the front, and there's 30 weight oil in here. That's actually stock. The springs and the shocks are stock on the front. The rear is not. I have green springs on the rear, and I have 40 weight oil in the front, so the oil in the front is a little bit thicker, and the springs are a lot lighter. They're not just one step lighter, they're 2 steps lighter. They're actually lighter than the springs on the front. Now usually what people do is they will run 50 weight fluid in the front and 60 weight in the rear, and they will put blue springs on the front and purple springs on the rear. You can see here I got the blue springs. My purple springs are down there inside of a box. I couldn't find them. I never use them, and I did have that set up for a while, and I don't like it. People set up like that because it makes it real stiff, and what happens is they jump them really high and they land and they want to absorb the impact. You hear people talk about chassis slap all the time, and see, I don't care about chassis slap. For one, I land on, you know, my yard out here, grass and dirt and things like that, and so I'm landing on something a little bit softer. I'm not out here landing on asphalt really, and I don't take it to skate parks and things like that, so I don't have to worry about that chassis smacking the ground. And honestly, as hard as I've hit the ground with that chassis, I'm not sure that, you know, chassis slap is even an issue, so it's not something I worry about. I spend maybe 1 or 2% of the time I'm driving actually hitting the ground, and the rest of the time I'm driving around and having fun. And I don't want to have a very stiff suspension when I'm out here driving around, because it just doesn't handle all that great when you're trying to turn and go over small bumps, things like that, if you have a very stiff suspension. And as far as my rings go that are on the shocks, I cannot remember what these are called for the life of me. I have been like racking my brain for the last minute. I don't care. The rings are on the shocks. You turn these, rotate them, and it changes where the springs are, right? On the rear, they're almost all the way down, not all the way, as they'll have room. If you can collapse your suspension and the spring still has space in there, you're okay. And if you have to go even further, you just go to a heavier spring, and then you'll raise the ring up. And that's this is just the setup. I did try a heavier spring and going up higher with the ring. I don't like it. This is where I like my suspension on this E Revo. Now, what I did that is backwards with my suspension is on the rear, I put thicker fluid and I put lighter springs. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to put, if you put thicker fluid, you put heavier springs. If you put thinner fluid, you put lighter springs. I did the opposite, and you know, I did try a lot of different things, and this is just the combination that worked best for me. So when I'm driving around, it stays on the ground pretty well, but when it hit bumps and stuff like that, you watch the rear end. I want it to kind of float over the bumps like that. Lots of times, if you have a real stiff suspension, when you hit a bump like this and you go down, the rear end will smack that surface really, really hard, and the springs and everything will cause, like your chassis will hit, your springs will hit, and it'll throw your rear end up like that. So when I come across this bump over here, you see how it just kind of floats over it? I'm not sure how well it came across, but you see it stays pretty level when it comes over that bump. It also stays on the ground pretty well. If your suspension in your rear is real stiff, when you put the throttle on, your rear end doesn't come down that much and your front end comes up even more. And so you lose your traction on your front wheels. I'm trying to keep all 4 of my wheels on the ground. And back here, you know, I drive back here a good bit, and so it's pretty bumpy back here. And I'm trying to keep it from, I got a stick. So as I come across these bumps, see, it does a real good job of not throwing that rear end up. See, it kind of floats when it hits those bumps. And that's what I'm looking for. I don't know how well you could tell, but the rear end wouldn't come up like this when I was coming across those bumps. Like if I change the suspension out to the blue and purple springs, it does it all the time where it comes up like this and it noses over very easily. Now the reason why the suspension works the way it does is that I have got thicker fluid in it, so whenever the rear wheels hit a bump, they don't go up all that fast. And I have lighter springs, and that prevents the wheels from coming down very quickly. That way the rear end is not kicking itself up, so you don't have this effect where it comes down like this and then the springs throw it up like this and it causes it to nose over. Now I know a lot of people are going to be leaving their comments about how you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Look, that's the way the suspension works for me. I like the way it drives. It fits my style. Maybe this suspension setup won't work for you, and you know, that's cool. Everyone has different styles. If I was driving this thing in a skate park, or if I had a different yard or different terrain, I would probably set my suspension up differently. But for my yard, for where I drive it at, for what I do with it, the suspension setup I have works great just for me. So keep that in mind. If you try the suspension setup, it doesn't work for you, remember, this is for my yard. This is for where I drive it, and it's for my driving style. Your yard, your area, your driving style may not match the suspension setup I have. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped you guys out. Like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys later.